Boeing's forthcoming guilty plea to a US charge related to the tragic incidents of ET-302 and JT-610 involving its 737 MAX, which claimed the lives of 346 people, is a pretty big moment for our aviation industry. The US government believes that Boeing violated a prosecution agreement in 2021 related to the two crashes, leading to the criminal charges. The US government says the violation occurred at the beginning of 2024 when a door blowout incident took place aboard an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX, the top story of the year, no doubt. As part of the guilty plea, Boeing will need to pay over $200 million USD in additional fines, and probably more telling, invest hundreds of millions into developing safety-focused programs at the company to turn around its fortunes. Boeing's guilty plea, a pivotal development for the manufacturer, really highlights the significant pressures that it has been under. While the plea may mitigate further damage, it does carry substantial fines and admission of guilt, and will obviously shape the company's future, and doesn't really solve everything that happened. Many of the charges relate back to Boeing's MCAS systems, which the US government alleges Boeing had deceived the essential regulator of the Federal Aviation Administration, or more commonly referred to as the FAA, about. This deception stems from the belief that Boeing hid critical elements of the MCAS system to speed up aircraft certification. In turn, it would be able to compete with Airbus and rival the A320neo program, which it didn't want to lose further ground to. Furthermore, by revealing the full impact of MCAS, it would have added further time not just to that certification program, but also elements such as pilot training, which means its debut into the market would have maybe not been as ideal for companies that were seeking to boost their efficiency as quickly as possible across the short to medium haul networks, and for Boeing it could have very well been the reason why an airline may have gone with Airbus over them. If Boeing moves forward with paying the penalty and completes a 3-year period where they experience enhanced monitoring and oversight, they will not be prosecuted. Boeing has already been facing increased oversight following a door blowout incident, which resulted in further loose bolts being identified after inspections on more MAX jets. So this isn't necessarily going to be, say, a groundbreaking change, but it will be prolonged, and we've already seen the effects of increased oversight, which has resulted in drops in their production rates and much more. The response to the guilty plea has undoubtedly been mixed, with the opposition largely led by the families of the MAX incident, who believe that Boeing will get off despite its role in these incidents. Arguments come from the likes of lawyers who represent the families fighting for their voices to be heard, with these lawyers stating that a guilty plea doesn't allow the whole truth to come out, and that Boeing should be held further accountable in what would be a fair and public environment in the form of a trial. The response to Boeing's guilty plea has sparked global controversy, with wildly differing opinions and also coverage, and some of this coverage will be done in a less factual or more biased manner. This is why today's sponsor of Ground News exists, an app and website that basically combines all related news to a topic and filters it into one place, and you can go to ground.news/DJA to check this all out. And in response to the case of Boeing's guilty plea, there were 28 news sources that have been accumulated, with the ability to reach all of these in the one place. And thanks to 3 independent news monitoring organizations, it is possible for us to see that 96% of these lean toward the center rather than the left or right. Observation also lets us see that the Journal Records article describing the guilty plea through its headline really focuses on what happened. However, other outlets are focusing more on what we know about the plea and the saga thus far. The ability to navigate through this is necessary for topics such as Boeing, aviation, and even Air Journal, but don't worry, you can tailor this to your specific interests and think more critically about what you're consuming. Working with Ground News for me was an easy decision. Being a news channel and knowing you consume news daily, having more control over the consumption is a fantastic asset asset. You can check them out and save 40% on the Vantage plan that I use at ground.news/DJA. On to the next story, as you may have seen from the description and also the headline. This is a multi-part video covering Boeing's latest developments, and this will move on to the Federal Aviation Administration ordering the inspection of 2,600 Boeing 737 jets over passenger oxygen masks. The FAA's recent order for the inspection of 2,600 jets, in addition to existing strict oversight, follows again that door blowout incident and certainly underscores a great deal of urgency and consequences. As part of the requirement from the regulator, the concern relates to the oxygen masks failing potentially during an emergency. The failure can be attributed to the retention strap. The mandated inspections follow multiple reports actually of passenger service units' oxygen wiggling out of its intended place, and as a result, the potential for passengers not to receive the required oxygen during emergencies, such as a depressurization event, means these inspections are important and necessary. The 2,600 jets are not just spread across one, say, type, rather including the 737 MAX and older 737 NGs. The FAA says this should involve precisely 2,612 planes on the US registry. In their airworthiness directive, the FAA stated that they were proceeding with this focus because of the unsafe conditions that exist or can develop in products of the same type of design. As stated by the FAA, the inspections include a general visual inspection of the PSU oxygen generator, and then following the inspection, any issues present should become apparent. Once this is concluded, the FAA states where applicable that the affected PSU should be replaced with a new and serviceable generator. And on top of that, you may see the need for the replacement of the retention strap, repositioning of generators, and honestly just the assurance that the affected generator has an expanded oxygen. The FAA states that total costs on operators can exceed $200,000, assuming that one working hour would equate to the expense of $85. In regards to the estimated costs for actually fixing this problem, well, while the regulator has provided us with a bit of an outline, this can very much vary. Why? Well, because a lot of the cost is going to come down to what is found in the inspections. Whether or not, say, the whole entire thing needs to be stripped and replaced, maybe there needs to be just repositioning, or potentially say there are other issues to be found. This will all be critical in determining the overall cost, not necessarily for the labor, but more so the parts. That is going to conclude today's focus on Boeing, with a lot happening involving the American plane maker. We first had talk on their guilty plea regarding charges over the MCAS and failure to really inform the FAA, and then there is developments over inspections involving the 737 over failures with the oxygen masks for passengers. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure to check out Ground News for 40% off their Vantage plan at ground.news/DJA, today's very thoughtful and wonderful sponsors. And we'll